Coming up on Hoosier Sports Night, IUS TV women's basketball reporter Dan Black joins us in studio to talk about the team's postseason chances.
And the baseball team welcomed fans to their first home game this year against the Cincinnati Bearcats. This is the Hoosier Sports Night. Welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Maya Engel.
And I'm Andrew Walker.
After a long road trip, the IU baseball team finally returned to Bart Kaufman Field Tuesday afternoon. Our Austin Matricardi was at home opener to tell us the results.
The Indiana baseball team hosted their home opener here on Tuesday night at Bart Kaufman Field, where they ran into a bit of bad luck and fell to the Cincinnati Bearcats 8-3. What started out as a sunny day at the ballpark turned dark quickly for the Hoosiers, both metaphorically and literally. As the clouds rolled in and a light drizzle poured down on Bart Kaufman Field, the Bearcats got out to a hot start, getting an early lead with a solo home run in the top of the first. They didn't stop from there as they punished the Hoosier pitching staff and went on to score 8 runs, the highest number of runs that Indiana's given up so far this season. Playing in their 5th game in 5 days, the Hoosiers struck out 8 times and couldn't really get anything going at the plate. They got a number of runners on base but couldn't get the big hits that they needed to bring those runners in to score. This loss runs counter to the Hoosiers' recent run of success, but the Hoosiers are already focusing on coming back out and playing well in their next game.
We've been playing good. Just the game of baseball sometimes is punch you right in the nose when you feel good. So we got to be able to come back out and be ready to play. And you got to tip your hat to Cincinnati. I thought they played great in all phases of the game today.
This was just the first game in what will be a long homestand for the Hoosiers. Over the next 2 weeks, they'll play host to Pacific, Western Illinois, Northern Illinois, and Wright State as they prepare for conference play. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Austin Matricardi.
The Hoosiers will continue their homestead this weekend when they host Pacific Tigers and early next week when they host the Western Illinois Leathernecks. All of those games will be worth 200 Crimson Guard reward points.
The IU women's basketball team traveled to Indianapolis last week to compete in the Big Ten tournament. Our Michael Tilka has joined us in studio by IUS TV women's basketball reporter Dan Black to discuss their performance in the tournament and more. Michael?
Thanks, Andrew. And Dan, thank you for joining us here tonight.
Sure.
To start things off, Indiana got into not 1, not 2, but 4 overtime periods against the number 10 seed Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament. How did Indiana pull off the gritty win?
Well, I think it was mostly just, sort of grit and grind in a way. You look at, I think it was the end of the regulation when Michigan State hit that. Well, at the time we thought game-winning buzzer beater with 0.4 seconds left. It seemed everything was over. Tyra Buss was on the floor already crying. So, you're looking at it, it's like, all right, the season's over. So I think it was really good for them. They managed to grit and grind throughout the rest of the overtime period, not let that situation get to them as a whole, as a team, and managed to fight through. And specifically, Amanda Cahill, 37 points on the night, really just carried the team throughout, especially because Tyra Buss did not shoot well at all. Jalen Penn also stepping up. So it was really a solid team effort all around to pick each other up here and there and be able to battle through 4 overtimes.
Yeah, as you mentioned, both those seniors played all 60 minutes, Amanda Cahill and Tyra Buss did, against Michigan State. And then less than 24 hours later, they have to face the number 2 seed Maryland Terrapins. What went wrong in that game?
Well, I wouldn't say so much going wrong because in the first half, Indiana kept it very close. I think that was mostly due to momentum from the night before, that big win, that 4 overtime win. They're very excited, have a lot of momentum. But you kind of saw the fatigue set in the second half. Again, Tyra Buss wasn't able to hit a lot of shots. The team basically in the second half wasn't able to hit a lot of shots. And starting off the game, Maryland pressed on defense basically from the tip, so that's obviously going to wear down Indiana offensively. So I think all of that kind of stuff, it's sort of just you expected it to happen. I personally didn't even expect it to be as close as it was, but the fact that they hung in there, but Coach Terry Morin said, even after the game, she said, I wouldn't ever say this to my players' face, but they looked fatigued. And everyone that watched, you could also see they just looked gassed by the third, fourth quarter.
Absolutely, just a tough turnaround for them. But now that the season's over for them, Big Ten tournament is behind them.
Right.
Now all that's left is postseason play. They have a spot at least in the WNIT.
Right.
But do you think the Hoosiers have made a good enough of a case to be in the NCAA tournament?
I mean, there's parts of it that you could say, yeah, when you go on an 8-game win streak, yeah, you would say there's a very good shot, because if the place that they were at before they were the bottom of the Big Ten, had they not gone on that run, it wouldn't even be in the conversation. But you also have to look at it as Coach Terry Moran also talked about the fact that they had a really tough schedule, and they did. They had to play Virginia and Louisville in non-conference play, and then they had to play Ohio State, Michigan, and Maryland, and then, of course, Maryland a second time in the Big Ten tournament. But they didn't win any of those games, and you have to win those games if you want to vouch for yourself when you didn't have a great regular season. So I think if they had won 1, 2, or even 3 of those games, they would have. It would be a non-question whether or not they get in. Personally speaking, I don't think they do. I think they just did not win enough of those marquee premier games to give themselves a shot at getting in.
All right, Dan, thank you for joining us once again. Andrew and Maya, back at the desk.
The IU women will learn their postseason fate on Monday. The NCAA tournament selection show will begin at 7 p.m., and the bracket of the women's NIT will be revealed by 9 p.m. that same night.
The water polo team had a successful weekend at home during the Indiana Classic. Beat reporter Jeffrey Matthews is here to give us a recap of the tournament.
The Hoosiers entered the weekend on a 5-game win streak when they returned home to host the Indiana Classic. Indiana started the tournament against a conference opponent, the Hartwick Hawks. In a tough back-and-forth game, Indiana could not muster enough offense in the second half to pull out a win, as they would go on to lose 11-13. In a rematch from a week ago, Indiana faced the Santa Clara Broncos. The Hoosiers did not waste any time setting the tempo, with sophomore Joelle Nkuzi and senior Jennifer Beadle both scoring a pair of goals. IU would use defense led the way by senior goalkeeper Jessica Goodrow, who finished with 9 saves in the game and 16 on the day, and kept Santa Clara out of reach, as IU would win 10-3. The second day found the Hoosiers in command throughout. The first game against VMI, Indiana converted on 75% of their power plays. Freshman Jill Hilofsky recorded a career high with 5 goals to lead the Hoosiers to a 9-7 win. In their final game, Indiana used defense to keep the Marist Red Fox offense off balance, with a final 10-3. Senior Sarah Myers joined an elite group as she recorded her 100th career goal. The Hoosiers will have no time off, as they will travel back to the West Coast next week to take part in the Sun Devil Invite in Tempe, Arizona. For IUS TV, I'm Jeffrey Matthews.
The Indiana women's tennis team has reached the midway point of the season as they have a record of 12-3. Here's women's tennis reporter Spencer Aber with a recap of the first half.
The women's tennis team has reached the midway point of their season as they head into Big Ten play. The Hoosiers have had an impressive season so far with a record of 12-3. They have competed well with some of the better schools in the NCAA, such as Tennessee. This season has consisted of mostly highs, but there have been some low points. The Hoosiers lost to Notre Dame, after having the opportunity to close out that match with one more win. Against Tennessee, the Hoosiers had the chance to get a marquee win, but the inability to put away points cost Indiana in that one. The team has been impressive so far, but closing out points and finishing matches strong is going to ultimately decide Indiana's fate for the rest of the season. As for head coach Ramiro Azcue, he has been pleased with the season so far, but knows much work is needed if the Hoosiers want any shot at winning a Big Ten tournament, which they haven't won since 2004.
This last matches, I love the way my team found a way. Like I said, just if it's not on the top, if it's not the doubles, if it's the singles, we have been finding ways to get in and fighting for every match, every point. So it's just a matter now. They know Big Ten's to start. That's the first thing I'm going to go and talk to the team about it. It starts right now. How we're going to get ready for the Big Ten.
The Hoosiers will start Big Ten play on the road as they take on number 5 Illinois. Reporting for IOS TV Sports, I'm Spencer Aber.
That first Big Ten match against number 5 Illinois will start on Saturday, March 10th at 11:30.
When Hoosier Sports Night continues, 4 Hoosiers will be heading to Cleveland for the NCAA wrestling tournament.
And the men's tennis team hosted a pair of crucial matches here in Bloomington. You're watching Hoosier Sports Night. Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night. With the Big Ten wrestling tournament completed and brackets set, 4 Hoosiers are moving on to compete in the NCAA tournament at Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland. Starting off at 125 pounds, junior Elijah Oliver will make his 3rd NCAA appearance in his 3rd year wrestling at IU. Oliver will face number 9 seed Ronnie Rios from Oregon State in his first match. Up next at 141 pounds is redshirt junior Cole Weaver, who has finally earned his first NCAA appearance with a spot as the 16th seed in his bracket. Weaver will face the winner of Lock Haven's Kyle Shoup and Iowa's Vincent Turk in his first round.
On to another first-time qualifier. Junior Bryce Martin earned an automatic qualifying spot during the Big Ten tournament at 165 pounds. Martin missed the majority of the Big Ten season with a shoulder injury, but returned just in time for the postseason. Martin will go up against number 9 seed Chance Marsteller of Lock Haven in his first match. To cap things off at 174 pounds is sophomore Devin Skatska, who will make his 2nd NCAA tournament appearance against, you guessed it, number 9 seed Keaton Subject of Stanford. The tournament will begin on Thursday, March 15th on ESPN and ESPNU. While it may not be football season just yet, the IU football team has already begun spring practice. IUS TV sports football beat reporter Joe Cantor has a story.
March is a time for basketball for many. IU football is back to business. With spring practice opening up, the installation process for next season is already underway.
I tell you, I love the effort. You know, the energy I thought was really, really good. It's sometimes hard to tell when you're going against each other, but in terms of, the execution part of it, because one side does a good thing, the other side doesn't. But we took a next step in our installation, which we wanted to be able to do, and I thought the effort was extremely high today, which is great for having to practice yesterday and a pretty short turnaround to come back and do it again.
While this might not be the most exciting to some, the inter-squad competition marks a brave new world for Indiana as they attempt to fill glaring holes at the linebacker position left by Chris Covington and T. Gray Scales, their graduating seniors.
I think that the 2 Mike linebackers right now that are battling, Mike McGinnis and Thomas Allen have done a really good job communicating with both guys that really are developing a good understanding of the defense and getting guys lined up right and playing with fanatical effort. Those are 2 things that have been consistent. Pressure's on for them to step up for sure, and that's kind of the glaring position on defense that a lot of question marks right now.
The biggest adjustment, however, comes for the new recruits, learning the ropes and making a huge competitive jump. A key example of that, wide receiver Jacoby Hewitt.
Practice kind of made me chuckle because he's his first college practice, and I promise you it was way different than he's ever been to before, and Coach Hurt was all over his tail, and I think he was, sometimes you start questioning, did I want to come early or not? So, but I think that he had a smile on his face when it was all said and done.
Indiana football has showed signs of budding success, and they're putting in the work now to see if they can go full bloom in the fall. Reporting for IUS TV Sports, I'm Joe Cannon.
You won't want to miss a first chance to catch the team in action during the Cream and Crimson game on April 14th at Memorial Stadium.
Meanwhile, on the diamond, Indiana softball was on the road once again last weekend in South Carolina to face Furman, Delaware State, and USC Upstate in the Wings Etc. Classic. Indiana dropped 4 of their matchups versus USC Upstate and Furman, but were able to produce enough offense in their win against the Delaware State Hornets. Rebecca Blitz and Gabby Jenkins got things going for the Hoosiers on Saturday, and each collected 2 RBIs in the 9-4 victory.
Well, it's timely and clutch hitting. A number of games that we've lost, we've out-hit our opponent, but it's not about that, right? It's not about the end result, the hit. It's about the process and having productive at-bats. It's about the quality at-bat and being at a certain percentage with that. You get a runner on, are we moving her over? Are we taking the next 60 feet on a defensive miscue? And then are we getting the clutch and timely hit? And so that's what it's got to be about for us, is just clutching up. We need somebody to go ahead and step up this weekend, be the leader offensively, and clutch up for us.
The Hoosiers will face national powerhouse Oklahoma this weekend, in addition to games against Illinois State and South Carolina, before returning home to Bloomington on March 16th.
The Indiana men's tennis team played 2 more home matches prior to its spring break matchups against Northwestern and Central Florida.
The IU Tennis Center witnessed plenty of action Friday afternoon, with the Indiana Hoosiers playing 2 more matchups in front of their fans. In the earlier matchup of the day, IU beat Marquette 4-0 with strong performances in both doubles and singles. Later on the day, the Hoosiers kept their intensity going forward when playing the Drake Bulldogs. But despite displaying good tennis, IU was not able to clinch the match in the end and lost 4-3.
We just didn't play our best tennis, to be honest, and this is a team that has the potential to beat a lot of top teams in the nation, but off day, wrong timing, whatever you want to call it, it just didn't play our best day.
Against the Bulldogs, IU got 3 victories in singles, with senior Rahil Manji and sophomore Zach Brotney and Bennett Crane winning all in straight sets. However, with the Bulldogs capitalizing in doubles, IU failed to recover and lost the match in a third set thriller at number 3 singles.
We were right there on a lot of courts, but couldn't get the 4th point, so it was, a lot of credit to them. They played well.
The Hoosiers will seek to bounce back onto the winning tracks on the road when they face both the Northwestern Wildcats and the UCF Knights, matches that are scheduled during the spring break week. For IUS TV Sports, I am Juan Diego Alvarado.
Following IU's spring break tour, the Hoosiers will return to Bloomington for another conference matchup against the Illinois Fighting Illini on March 23rd.
The Indiana women's golf team had their best finish of the year as they finished in 2nd place last weekend at the Fresno State Classic in Fresno, California. The Hoosiers were led by junior Erin Harper, who shot a .211, which was good enough for her first ever medalist spot, alongside UC Irvine's Avery French. Alongside Harper, freshman Mary Parsons finished within the top 10, shooting a solid .219 for the weekend. Coming up, the team will get their spring break on as they travel to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for the Hawkeye El Tigre Invitational, hosted by the University of Iowa on March 16th and 17th.
That does it for this week's episode of Hoosier Sports Night. We will be taking a break for the next 2 weeks, but don't forget to like us at IUS TV Sports on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at IUS TV Sports. For Andrew Walker, I'm Maya Ingold. We'll see you next time.